In this part of the training, we explore another important way people process information internally. While many people describe experiences through images, sounds, or feelings, some people primarily process information through internal dialogue. This style of thinking is known in NLP as digital modality. Digital processing focuses on logic, analysis, and structured reasoning. People who use this style frequently evaluate ideas through internal conversation. Understanding this pattern allows communication to become more precise. When you recognize digital processing, you can adapt your communication so that ideas are easier for the listener to evaluate and understand. Digital modality refers to the internal voice people use when thinking through ideas. Many people experience this as a silent conversation in their mind. They may ask themselves questions, evaluate possibilities, or analyze situations step by step. Instead of relying primarily on images or sensations, they focus on logical structure. Their thinking often involves organizing information into categories, comparisons, and conclusions. Recognizing this style of processing can greatly improve communication with analytical thinkers. Internal dialogue is something most people experience at times. It is the voice we hear internally when thinking through a situation. A person might silently ask themselves questions such as, "Does this make sense? What would be the best option? What might happen if I choose this approach?" This internal discussion allows them to evaluate ideas carefully. People who rely heavily on digital modality often spend a great deal of time in this kind of internal analysis. Digital processors often approach problems analytically. They prefer clear explanations and logical structure. When evaluating an idea, they may look for supporting evidence or reasoning. Instead of responding primarily to emotional appeal, they focus on whether the argument makes sense. This does not mean they lack emotion. It simply means their decision-making process often relies on logical evaluation. When communicating with analytical thinkers, structured explanations can be especially effective. Just as sensory modalities appear through language, digital processing also reveals itself through certain words. You may hear phrases such as, "I think that makes sense." "Let's analyze the situation." "I need to understand how this works." These expressions reflect internal reasoning. The person is evaluating ideas logically, rather than describing sensory experience. By listening carefully for thinking-related language, you can recognize when someone is operating primarily in digital modality. When communicating with someone who prefers digital processing, clarity becomes especially important. Logical structure helps them follow the idea. Explaining reasoning step by step allows them to evaluate the argument effectively. Instead of relying on emotional persuasion, provide explanations that demonstrate how one idea leads logically to the next. This approach respects their analytical style and makes communication more productive. When ideas are presented clearly, digital processors can engage more easily in the discussion. Although some people favor digital processing, everyone uses multiple thinking styles. At times, people may think visually, at other times emotionally, and at other times analytically. Context often influences which style becomes dominant. This is why communication benefits from flexibility. When you recognize how someone is processing information, you can adapt your approach. Awareness of these patterns allows conversations to become clearer and more effective. Flexibility in communication strengthens influence. From a spiritual perspective, clarity of thought plays an important role in communication. When our thinking becomes organized and intentional, our understanding improves. Clear reasoning helps us examine situations with greater awareness. Rather than reacting automatically, we learn to reflect carefully. Balanced reasoning allows us to consider both logic and compassion. When awareness guides thought, communication becomes more constructive and harmonious. To practice recognizing digital modality, begin by observing your own internal dialogue. Notice the questions you ask yourself while thinking through a problem. Pay attention to the language you use internally. Are you analyzing possibilities, comparing options, or evaluating outcomes? Next, practice explaining an idea clearly and logically to someone else. Focus on presenting the reasoning step by step. This exercise strengthens awareness of analytical thinking and improves communication clarity. In this part of the series, we explored digital modality. the analytical thinking style that uses internal dialogue. People who favor this processing style often evaluate ideas logically and carefully. By recognizing thinking-related language patterns, you can better understand how someone is processing information. When communication includes clear reasoning and structured explanations, analytical thinkers can engage more easily. In the next part of the series, we will expand calibration further by observing body language. Posture, breathing, and subtle physical signals often reveal emotional states during conversation. If you found this training helpful, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part in the series. And be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook using the links provided in the video description below. I'll see you in Part 7, Body Language Calibration.